Welcome back to Car's Garage. Welcome back, guys. In this video I will show you how to change a clutch in your car. This particular car is an 87 Ford Turbocoupe Thunderbird, but this can be applied to almost any vehicle with a manual, just with minor variations. So let's begin. First thing before you do this job is take the battery off. So it's always a good idea to start inside the car before you drop your transmission. Make sure that when you drop the transmission down, nothing's in the way or hold it up here to, pull it down with the transmission. Then you got some serious issues. You're gonna break some stuff here. So I'm going to show you how to take this shifter apart so the transmission come out seamlessly. Okay, first thing I like to do is take the knob off. Now, some cars, they put thread locker here from the factory. So what you should do is heat up the shifter a little bit and to melt that thread locker off, and you can just pop it off. So there's two screws here, one on each side. The Phillips head screws. Take those out. Now you grab this from the front, it just pops off like that. Take the sound deadening out. Take these 10mm bolts off. And that just comes right off like that. Okay, now we're done here. Once we drop the transmission, that's going to slide right down. Okay, make sure the transmission is in neutral and the emergency brake is not engaged, because we're going to take the drive shaft off and you want to be able to turn it by hand. Okay, now I take this drive shaft off. I have a pry bar here so it doesn't wiggle around when I try to crack these loose. Now these bolts are either a 12mm 12-point socket you can use on these heads of the bolts, or you could use a 13mm 6-point socket. Alright, so we're going to use a big breaker bar on this because these are on there really tight. Oh yeah! I'm talking about Brianna. Yeah.
Oh baby. Yeah.
I knew you liked
wow.
that. And the last one. Yeah, baby. Now I'm going to zip them all out. Woo! She's a crusty. And that's the last one. Hold the drive shaft. Now this comes right out. What I'm going to do is, on the other side of this drive shaft, there's a slip yoke over there, and that should slide right out of the trans as I pull this out. So I'm going to do that. Drop it down from here. Like that. So we're going to use a Chinese butt plug here. So when we drop this trans, there's going to be no fluid dropping out of it. Alright, the vehicle speed sensor. There's two tabs over here. Pull them out and push them down, just like that. Okay, now this one, be careful popping this out, because sometimes one of these things pops out, but if it does, push it back in. Take this trans mount off. This is a 19mm nut here. To take this mount off from the body of the car, I have a 15mm deep socket there and a 13mm socket over here. Zip that off. Now the other side. Alright, so push this up by hand and pop this out. Like that. The other side comes right out now too. Remember, I do have the transmission jacked up a little bit, so now I can just go ahead and take this off. There's an aftermarket mount here, so just take this off. Take this plate off. So I'm going to take this off. Take these two bolts off here. These are 16 millimeters. Alright, Brianna, can I get a hammer? Alright, so you gotta hammer this. What the hell is this crap? Damn it, Brianna, man, you can't do shit right.
Sorry, Clan.
Sorry about that, folks. I had to put my camera girl in check. Alright, so once you hammer this off, just like that. Now that we took the crossmember off, we're going to take the exhaust off to help us in taking the transmission out. These are 5/8 nuts on here on these studs. So we had some coil on here overnight. We sprayed them before we did this job. Hopefully that helped. Yeah, baby. That's what I'm talking about. Who's your clown father, Brianna?
Wow, Clown, that was easy. What about the other side?
That needs a U-joint. Now the other one. I'm going to use a 9/16 socket here. See if I can crack this loose the way it is. Yeah, baby. Now this one. Alright, now grab it and wiggle it and take it off. Just like that. Now for the slave cylinder, there's a 3/8 headed bolt over there. Take that off. And this cover comes right off. And this should just pop right out. Just like that. Alright, we're actually going to change the slave cylinder and the master cylinder in one shot. That's another video. I'll put the link in the description below. So I'm just going to go ahead with the continuation of changing this clutch out. Now that the exhaust side of the way, we have tons of room on that side to take these transmission bolts off. So I'm going to take these off. So this has 4 bolts, one here, and 2 on the other side. So I'm going to take this one off. Leave it out a little bit and do the other side. And this is the other side on top. I'm going to take that off. Alright, now I got the jack under here. And I'll completely take the bottom 2 bolts off. Alright, now I'm going to push it up and slide this out. Just like that. You can also use a tranny jack under here, or if you do it on the floor, you use a jack. To start her off, it's a 13mm bolt over here. Another one here. There's also a bolt on top that I took off, so now this should come right out. We can move this off to the side. Now there's a 17mm over here. The rest of the bell housing bolts are 13mm. That's the last 13mm on the driver's side. Oh yeah. Woo! That's what I'm talking about.
Wow, that's tight.
Yeah, baby. Too bad I can't say the same about you, Brianna.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Woo! That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. Oh yeah. Alright. And that's out. Alright, now we're on the passenger side. Ooh, woo! And there's another one. And the last 2 bolts up here. And the last bolt. Alright, this is almost off. It's hanging up over here a little bit. Put a little pry bar back there. And pry it. Gotta get it off the dowels. It's off. Now under the pressure plate, these are 13mm bolts. And the last one on top. Okay, now that all the bolts are off, I'm gonna spray some Windex in here because I'm Greek and I don't want to breathe this clutch disc stuff because it causes cancer. So I gotta get the dowel off, gotta get the pressure plate off the dowel pins over here. There's one on top too. Alright, so once it's off the top, these both, the clutch and the pressure plate, come right off. As you can see, this is bad. It's actually up to the rivets. This is really worn out. Okay, go. These are 17mm bolts. Hold the flywheel onto the crank. Take these off. Slowly but surely it's gonna come out, just like that. Take the plate off. Alright, now to pull this pilot bearing out, we got this from Advanced Auto. This is from their loaner tool program, so you get it for free pretty much. And it's model number 648619, and this is what it looks like. And you just pull this out and put these inside the pilot bearing and then tighten this down and it pops it out. Alright, so pull this all the way back. Now put this in. Now what you want to do is, you see these little prongs here at the end? You want to hook the back of the bearing and pull it out. So put it in there and go ahead and turn this handle so it spreads them. And turn it as much as you can. That's good. And now, you could run down the nut. Take a 3/4 inch wrench and tighten her down. And she's a sliding out. She's nice and tight, unlike my camera girl.
Wow, clown.
Pay attention, Brianna. You might learn something. Sometimes if you see the inside here sliding out, and it's not grabbing the bearing, you can just grab this with a pair of channel locks and just tighten this down a little more. Like that, don't go too crazy, so it could get a better grip, and continue on wrenching. And it's out. Take some brake cleaner and clean your hole. Make sure it squirts all over your camera girl when you do that.
Thanks, clown.
You got it. I got some more for you later.
Oh, wow.
That's the part number for the new pilot bearing we're putting in. Put a little bit of high temperature grease in here, a very slight amount, and lube your hole. So this is the new one we're going to put in. There's a seal over here. This faces towards the back of the car. Make sure you always check to see how the pilot bearing sits, what direction it's in. You get a socket that fits on the outside of the pilot bearing. And make sure it's sitting in nice and square and start tapping that in. Now take your socket and bang her in. I also like to put a extension on it to drive it in a little further from back here. Alright, so the pilot bearing is installed. Time to take this oil seal out. Get yourself a flathead and try to go behind it. Okay, try to pop it out like that. Just gotta go behind it. You like my reach around technique, Brianna?
Oh yeah, wow, worked real nice.
I know, it always does. Look at that. I just gotta walk the seal out. And there she is. Now I'm gonna spray some brake cleaner on this towel and go here and clean the inner surface where the inner seal sits, the part of the seal, and the outer part of the seal where that sits too. Make sure they're free of debris. Alright, so this is the new oil seal we're putting in. Always match up the parts, make sure they're the same. And they are. And it's a really good idea to change your wheelman oil seal when you drop the transmission. In this car, since we're doing a clutch in this car, we're there, so might as well change it. It's preventative maintenance. You don't want to put everything back together, then a year later you have a wheelman oil seal leak and you got to take everything back out. So for 20 bucks, you get peace of mind. Go ahead and put this one in. Take some oil, motor oil, and lube it up on the inside so you don't tear it when you put it in. Just put very little over there. And lube it up all the way around. Also, I'm going to put a little motor oil around this crankshaft flange. And a little bit on the outer portion where the seal is going to sit. Alright, you see this? How the cup is facing this way? You want to put it like that. So, pop this on. And you go the rest of the way, tap it around. And you want this to be flush with the block over here. You can also use a block of wood to aid in the installation procedure. Now down here you can also use a flat drift. See how it's going in? And it's not really damaging the seal. Again, you want to go flat with the surface here. And we're done. This whole thing is flush. Put the plate back on. We'll put in a new flywheel. Part number 50-703. And this is about 40 bucks. You can also cut your old one, but it's not worth it. By cutting, I mean they resurface it. It's 40 bucks, you're better off getting a new one. You also get a new ring over here for the starter. So, use some brake cleaner here. We're putting a center force pressure plate on there, and that's the part number for that. It also comes with the clutch aligning tool. Now this flywheel has holes for dowel pins for a Mustang and for a Turbocoupe. So we're going to use the outer ones is for the Turbocoupe. So it's 1, 2, and 3. See over here? 1, 2, and 3. You just align that to see which ones align over here with the flywheel. So they give you 3 dowel pins. I'm just going to hammer these in. Just take the fat side of the dowel pin, put it in the bottom. That's good. So we're going to use some blue thread locker on these flywheel to crank bolts. Just put a line on it. That's good. And the flywheel goes in like this. Alright, so you gotta turn this until you line all the bolt holes. That looks like it's right there. And pull all the bolts in by hand first. Okay, now to prevent the flywheel from turning when we torque down the bolts, I put a socket over here with a breaker bar on that bolt, the crank pulley bolt. We're going to hold that. We are going to go to 64 foot-pounds, and we're going to go to crisscross pattern over here when we're tightening this down. And as I tighten them down, I'm going to put a white mark on them so I know that I already tightened that one down. Now do the one across. And we're done.
You gonna paint the last one, Clown?
That's right.
Oh, wow, cool.
Now we're all
we did 'em
good.
all.
I put some shop towels over here to protect the grease in the pilot bearing. And I'm going to spray brake cleaner again over here to clean it one last time. Any fingerprints need to come off that. Or oils from your fingers. So this is the flywheel side of the clutch. I'm just going to take these stickers off here. And this is the pressure plate side. Put the tool in here and go ahead and put this on the car. Now you can put one spline facing the 12 o'clock position, so when you put the transmission in, you try to face that spline on the input shaft the same direction. So go ahead and put this in. Oh yeah, baby, look at that. Another pressure plate, clean this up with some brake cleaner. Now put the pressure plate on, align the dowel pins. We put a thread locker on these bolts too. Okay, I want to mention one thing before you tighten this all the way down. Make sure, sometimes there's a little play here, make sure the clutch is sitting as center as possible. So if it's going down a lot and up and down a lot, so if it's going up and down a lot, just try to put it right in the center. This one's actually not too bad. It is moving a little bit, but I try to center it as much as I could. So somewhere there. Go ahead and put the rest of the bolts in. Same deal here. We're going to go crisscross pattern, star pattern, and we're going to 24 foot-pounds. So, let's start here. And this one, you don't need anybody in the front to hold the crank pulley, because you can just hold it by hand. 24 foot-pounds isn't that much. Alright, so you guys get the idea. I'm just going to go ahead and torque all the rest of them down. Alright, now that we have the transmission outside the car, we put it on the bench, and we're going to take these 4 half-inch bolts off the top over here where the shifter is. Now there's a silicone down here, so pry that open like that. This whole thing just comes right out. Okay, next step, wear your safety glasses. This case is aluminum, so you don't want to use a scraper over here because you might nick the aluminum, or scratch it, gouge it, whatever you want to call it. Over here I have a plastic bristle gasket remover brush, so I'm just going to use that. and that's safely aluminum. And I also covered this a little bit here with some paper towels, so it catches most of the debris. Once I'm done, I take this off. I'm gonna blow it out with some compressed air in there. Let's go ahead and do that around the whole thing. Alright, so it came out nice and beautiful over here. So what I'm going to do, I have a blowgun. I'm just going to cover the fill hole over here that goes into the transmission and just blow everything else out. Now since we have the transmission out, we also want to fill it up. So we're going to take the fill hole out, this pipe plug here. That's a 3/8 extension I'm putting in there. Now in this fill hole, I'm putting some blue monster tape on here, Teflon tape, and go with the threads when you do this. And that's good. Alright, so get your ATF fluid, open it up, and pour it in here. Alright, so make sure the transmission is level when you do this, and once it starts dripping out of the fill hole, you're pretty much done. Alright, now so I'm just going to go ahead and tighten this down, and we're good. Alright, so I got some brake clean on a rag here. I'm just cleaning the surface over here. We're going to put the RTV, because we did fill this up with transmission fluid. This is a shifter we're putting in. It's from Summit. It's a T5 shifter. It's for a Mustang. It also fits a Turbocoupe. We're going to use some Ultra Black by Permatex. Go ahead and put a nice little bead over here. And she's done. Now make sure you insert the ball over here on this plastic bushing and put it right in. Catch them by hand first. And they're all tight. Alright, now we installed the shifter over here. We're going to put in third gear, and we're going to press firmly on this to take the slap out and adjust this about 1/10 of an inch away from the shifter so you don't damage anything if you hit it really hard into gear. Alright, so we have in third gear, and as you can see, taking out the slap right there, so we go about 1/10 of an inch. So we're going to go over there and tighten that down. And we're going to do the same thing for second gear. Alright, so I put a little dab of blue thread locker in here where the nut's going to go, and just tighten that up. And we're good. Now we're going to take this factory boot out of here and put it on the shifter. Now put the large washer they give you with the kit, so it sits right there. And next we're going to put the stock shifter boot. This isolates, this prevents the noise from transferring inside the car. Put a zip tie around that and you're good. Now the clutch fork, you have to take the spring off the pivot right there. Pops right out. And that's the bearing, the throwout bearing. That's what we're left with. So we're putting a Ford one back in, and you should always change this when you take the clutch out, you replace the clutch. So I'm putting a socket over here. This socket is a 7/8 socket, fits right over, comes right out. Now you go into aluminum threads, and this is steel, so put a dab of anti-seize on this. Put the lock washer on there, and thread this down. And we're good. Alright, so the problem here now is this is actually excessively worn over here. It's a deep groove, so they don't make these clutch forks anymore for this car. We got a bunch of bearings here. Let's see which one's the best one to put in here. We also have a Mustang spring, so we're going to see our options here now with this. So this is a throwout bearing we decided to use. That's the part number, center force. This is what it looks like. So what we did here is we just cut the clips here from the stock one. One was really bad, that's why we did this. it was about to break. The way this goes, it goes in like this. It goes in like this. And what I'm doing, I'm just gonna put grease under these tabs over here, and I'm also gonna grease up over here under here. We put a little bit of grease, high temperature grease, on the face of this throwout bearing. Not too much, just a little bit. It's good. Put some high temp grease on this pivot ball over here. Some high temperature grease on this collar over here. And very, very light over here. Very, very light. That's it. Some grease on the inside over here on the throwout bearing. I also put some grease in here where the bearing sits on the clutch fork. So that's where all the grease goes. So to pop this in, this pivot ball should go in between these clips. Alright, so you see it's in the hole over there. Remember, before I put the bell housing up, I put a line of blue thread locker here. And put these bolts in. Alright, now take the tool out, the bell housing. Put that in like that. Go ahead and put the bolts in. There's a ground strap on top, don't forget that. Okay, the bolts that go through here and thread on this aluminum case, we're going to anti-seize those bolts. And this one here is a bigger bolt, a 17mm bolt that goes over there. I'm just going to go ahead and tighten down all these bolts. Put the starter back on. And we're done. Okay, remember I said when we put the tool, this will be the spline on top, so we keep this on top. I mean, it's not a big deal because you can always turn transmission, but just, you know, you might hit it in the first shot if you put this on top. So now we're going to go ahead and put this trans in. Alright. Put the input shaft into the throwout bearing, just like that. And try to wiggle and push your way through. There you go. Whew.
Okay, come on.
Come on, baby, come on. Come on, baby. Come on. Come on. Come on. Alright, so we can't get it to go in a little more. We tried everything, so what we're going to do now is we're going to put the slave cylinder in, have someone push in the clutch, release some pressure on the pressure plate, then try pushing that back in. Alright, so now hold it down, we're going to push the transmission in. Go ahead, push down. Oh yeah,
Oh,
yeah baby, we got it. Woo! It's a money shot, baby. Now we put some anti-seize on these bolts here. I'm going to go ahead and put these in. Now different transmissions, you don't have to do this to. You don't have to press on the clutch to release the pressure on a pressure plate to slide the transmission in. This is a T5, so apparently for this transmission that works. So we're going to go ahead and put these bolts in. We put some anti-seize on these bolts too. I'm going to tighten these down. It doesn't help that these bolts are a mile long.
No.
Alright, so we're going to leave this. Now put the cover on the slave, just like that. And that down. Alright, now we push the transmission up a little bit. Go ahead and put this shifter on there. I'm going to put some blue thread locker on these bolts. To give you a little bushing over there, a little pad. And pop those through. Put these through here. In. Alright, I got that one too. Now I'm going to run this through. And I put 2 nuts on. Put the boot on and put the shifter knob on. Put the screws in the panel. This is nice and tight and we're done in here. Okay, so we're done. This is just a reversal of removal, everything here. So I don't want to make this video 2 hours long. We put the exhaust on, the drive shaft is on, the transmission mount and the transmission crossmember is on. Also the vibration damper for the transmission, which is right here, that's on too. That's pretty much it. Transmission is in. We press the clutch a couple times. It feels good. We take it out for a spin. There's no leaks. And that's how you install a clutch in a car. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to my channel. And click that bell to be notified of any new videos that I come out with. Also check me out on Instagram, Clowny1969. See ya!